So we're going to do a big summary of what we just learned in the PoE2 presentation and then the extremely long Q&A by Ziggy D with the developers. I just want to quickly apologize. I have been up for 30 hours and 12 minutes at this point. So if I act like a zombie or I misspeak, I'm sorry. One thing I have to say at the start of all of these notes, I'm writing all of this down as I listen to them and they present quickly. So I might have missed some things or some things might be a little bit incorrect. I'm sorry. I'm trying the best that I can. Check the patch notes if I'm wrong. I might be wrong about some things, didn't write it down correctly. Another thing is a lot of people I saw during the whole presentation were really mad for, just as one example, that Druid wasn't released. But Grinding Gear Games mentioned that they had changed their policy. They pick a date, they get as much stuff done as they possibly can, and whatever they have done on that date, they ship it. And so things like the Druid class were almost done, but they couldn't get it. And so for me personally, like I want to play the Druid. I'm very excited to do 17 damage, but I don't fault them for that. And I'm extremely favorable toward this patch. I think they've done a colossal amount of work in the last couple of months, and I think they're making the game significantly better. So I have pretty much zero bad feelings over what they presented. All right, so let's just get into this machine gun style. First of all, when it comes out on the 29th, PoE2 is free for anybody. You can play. All content is available. Your progress is saved. And if I saw it accurately, I think I saw the little console symbols on their little infographic. So you can play for free for a couple of days if you want to try PoE2. Act 4 is here. They're non-linear islands. You can do them in any order. There's 3 mini-act side stories, so you don't have to redo the campaign, and cruel difficulty is gone. That's going to be so amazing because we're so sick of doing Acts 1 through 3 over and over and over. There's 35 new zones and 24 new bosses. They will be replaced by Acts 5 and 6 later, but they will reuse this content in some form in the end game, they said, so it will be valuable to play through it. They're adding sprinting to the game. After a dodge roll, you can sprint. It's, they said, faster than almost any monster in the game. This lets you disengage or just run through content that you don't feel like you need to do. A lot of people have complained in the past that the pacing of the campaign is a slog. This is a huge way to make it faster. They do have to give you a penalty, though. If you're sprinting and a bunch of monsters hit you, you can get knocked down. So when you're sprinting and you see a bunch of monsters, it's a good idea to use a skill to interrupt your sprinting. So if they hit you, you don't get knocked down. Support gems can now be used across multiple skills, meaning the same support skill. So before, martial tempo gives you more attack speed. You put it on your most powerful skill. That's what you do. Now you can put martial tempo on however many things that you want. And now there's different tiers of support gems that increase their power, or in some cases even change their power in the higher tiers. And now there's new lineage supports, which are godly. They cannot be cut. If I heard them correctly, you must find them. So tons of new ways to build your characters. And as they talked about earlier, they thought that opening up the game and letting you build whatever you want is much better than what they currently had. I completely agree with this. Grinding Gear Games has literally made their mark on the ARPG world by opening up possibilities, and you let people theorycraft or path whatever you want and mix and match whatever you want and just see what people can come up with. I never really understood why they were trying to narrow the scope of things. Well, I guess I heard their reasons. I guess I understand why, but I always thought it was the wrong way for them to go. I think this is going to be way better for the game in the long run. This whole section is probably be better to check the patch notes than me just trying to quickly listen to their rapid fire of this, but tons of skills got buffed. Ranger Cold got buffed. CC bonuses on bosses got buffed because they said it's much harder to CC a boss than it is a regular monster. So you should be more rewarded for that, which is, of course, makes sense. They buffed some of the poison arrow skills. They added Mirage Archer. It looks like it works a little bit differently. In PoE 1, I think Mirage Archer is just like above your head and it shoots. This one actually creates mirages of you as an archer. Evasion got buffed. There's now deflection, which can, I think it said that mitigates 40% of your damage. Either way, it's no secret in Path of Exile that Energy Shield was by far the best defense. Evasion was kind of in the middle, and Armor was the worst. Evasion got buffed with deflection. Armor is getting buffed as well, as we'll see later. Block and parry, I believe they said you can block and parry all hits except the mega red attacks from like the most powerful bosses. And they also increase the speed and how the blocks and parries work. And people from their conversations, they said like the people who were playing Warrior, for example, said that they saw a big improvement. Tons of skills buffed for Warrior: Volcanic Fissure, Perfect Strike, Molten Strike, Forge Hammer, Ancestral Cry, all buff. Shield skills are buffed. There's no cooldown on Shield Charge. That's going to feel like PoE 1, and it does more damage. But remember, they opened up the no cooldown on Shield Charge because now you can sprint. So now that you can sprint, Shield Charge makes sense. And then Shield Wall has increased AoE. They buffed many of the cries. Ancestral Warrior Totem now scales with your weapon damage and is buffed by endurance charges. And there's more supports to help generate those endurance charges. They buffed the Warbringer Totem Ascendancy. They buffed accuracy at close range. Their goal is, as a warrior, you shouldn't need accuracy if you're fighting close range. And now armor can now help mitigate elemental attacks. More on this in the Q&A on why they did this, but armor got a big buff here. So mercenaries, I believe they can reload now at full speed without that slowing penalty. Then they said, I believe this is all CCs. If I read them correctly, Shock Freeze got buffed to 8 seconds. And the reason why they said they did this is because they wanted to make comboing easier. Like comboing was too tedious. It was too difficult to do because you had such a short window when this guy is shocked or when this guy is frozen, then you can do this. So extending this window is going to let you make it easier for you to do your combos. You have a mortar cannon now that shoots the grenades that you give it, and then their banners got buffed. The Witch, the Frost Mages now provide defense and help freeze. The Spectres they thought that the Spectres would be too powerful, so they went in conservatively. They saw that this was incorrect. They made him cheaper, and now they're going to do more damage. Gazzy's going to be happy about that. They buffed Blood Mage, and I believe they said that they buffed Demon form. I couldn't quite catch what they said, but they buffed some of the ascendancies for the Witch. On the Monk, Staggering Palm can stack the duration. The Wind Blast dazes on hit. They said in general that the Wind and the Physical Monk was behind like Lightnings, the Lightning and the Ice Strike Monk. So they're trying to bring it up. Hollow Palm Technique. I just leveled a ton of characters with this in PoE 1. Hollow Palm Technique is where you don't wear a weapon and you have that bare fist fantasy. But it's super good for leveling in PoE 1. I leveled a bunch of characters with it. So now you're going to get some unarmed gameplay, can make a totally new build out of that. Acolyte of Chalupa. Chaos damage now ignites, shocks, burns, and freezes, I think is what they said. All chaos damage can now leech. And then they said like some of the ascendancy nodes got baked into the other ones, buffing them. And then you can have an ability where, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. You can cast chaos explosions on dodge roll and get a ton of mechanics out of that. It was actually a pretty huge explosion too. You roll around and you just make these like void explosions everywhere. Sorcerer got something pretty sick. So the single curse, there used to be like different curses for each element. Now it's just a single curse elemental weakness that works for all of them. Same thing with exposure. It's elemental exposure. They made weapon swaps instant for all classes. That way when you're flipping back and forth between stuff, it's much better. And now there is this beautiful mechanic called infusions, which if there would be anything to go back and watch their presentation on, I think it would be sorcerer infusions. But you get little like ice infusions or fire infusions, which modify the spells that you cast. So, like, you might be casting like a firestorm, but you picked up an ice infusion, and then it turns it into a firestorm and a blizzard at the same time. But then, if you get like all of the infusions, then it turns it into this like apocalyptic hellfire, and actually changes the colors and the ways that the spells work. Um, I'll be honest, just from it's kind of a stupid reason to pick it. It's kind of like picking an NFL team just because you like the colors, but the sorcerer stuff just looked so beautiful. I feel like I really want to play a sorcerer and make something work there. They put 100 new notables on the passive tree. They did a big pass around all the cool ones that they added. There's just tons of theory crafting to do there. The attribute requirements went down 25% to enable more builds. It's amazing how many things in this patch that they put in here that I've been complaining about. Like, I was trying to, especially when I was building my warrior, I was trying to like get my two-handers on and the armor that I wanted, and the attribute requirements were so strict. Like, I felt paralyzed all the time from just to put on my gear that I'm finding. And I'm like, I understand that grinding your games is trying to make interesting problems for me to solve. That's what being a game developer is. Like, you make interesting problems that I have to figure out in order to play the game, and then I feel good about solving them. But my God, dude, I mean, everything that I picked up, every good thing that I picked up was I just couldn't put on because of the attributes, and I had to backtrack and fix it all in the tree just to be able to put on one item. I think just even this going down 25% is like feels exactly right. Like, I'll be able to wear the item barely, but I won't have to like respec to put it on. I'm so happy to see this. This plagued me on multiple builds. And by the way, another thing, one more thing, just to ramble about this one more time. In almost every build guide that I made, Eye Strike, Monk, Lightning, Arrow, Ranger, Javelin, Amazon, all of them. The Essence Drain, Contagion, Lich, all of them, Witch, whatever his name is. I always like path to like the main chunky notable of their core stat, because I felt like every time if I didn't do that and I made a guide for it, everyone would tell me that they couldn't put on the gear. So that's another thing about it. It might actually open up some possibilities where we don't always have to go take that node. There's a new league mechanic, and the depth of this league mechanic, to me, was it just kept going and going. It's actually unbelievable. So it looked like Abyss, pretty much Abyss from PoE 1. I just played Abyss last season. And Abyss, you know, it roams around. You step on the circle, the monsters come out, you kill them, it goes forward, you open some chests, you kill the last monster, a treasure chest spawns, and you open it, right? Well, a lot of that's like the base of it. But now killing the monsters and anything that you kill around the Abyss starts to magnify the entire encounter. So like if you kill an essence guy near the Abyss or a boss or anything like that, it's going to impact the power of the enemies that continue to spawn as the Abyss moves around. You get the Abyssal Trove upon completion, but then there's an entire new area where you're going to go craft a bunch of like really awesome things where it gives you 3 choices, and then you have to throw it into the Abyss of Despair. Then it comes back up, and it can have the items can have like superpowers. You can also put these like super affixes or the superpowers on waystones. And then sometimes instead of getting a treasure chest at the end, you open a portal to the abyssal depths where you have a whole new level and insane rewards and a boss fight. Like I said, the mechanic just kept going and going. And then they said there's an entire other layer to the mechanic that they're not going to spoil, where when you go back to the place where you do all the crafting and you throw stuff into the abyss to make it powerful, they said if you can make your items like Super Saiyan, why not make yourself Super Saiyan? And there was a menu where you can jump in, but they didn't show us what happens when you jump in. So probably you come back as Ultra Instinct Goku for an hour and you just murder everything. I have no idea, but first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Abyss and we're going to jump in we're going to kill the boss to get the token to throw yourself into the Abyss and see what happens. on the end game, there's tons of new maps. There's new specific bosses and biomes. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about like 5 minutes ago. The point that grinding your games is doing in designing a video game is trying to make an interesting problem that I would like to solve and feel good about it. What I saw them make with the bosses and the biomes felt like exactly that. For example, if you walk over to like the water biome, there's like a big whirlpool. You can see like, I don't know, there's a big hydra or a leviathan there that you're supposed to go fight. You can get real close to him, but you can't walk up and go fight him. Well, why? That's because in one of the maps right next to it, there'll be a key or a lever or something that you got to go find in order to access him. That's like, that to me is a very cool idea. I see there's a boss there. I don't exactly know how to get to him, but I'm kind of like doing a dungeon in Zelda. I'm going to kind of look around in every nook and cranny and see if I can find a key or see if I can find the secret lever, and then I can go fight him. But it won't be too tedious because it's like in like the 3 surrounding maps. So I thought that was like such a good idea, placing all these different bosses. It also really kind of synergizes with their overall idea. Like they keep pushing that instead of sitting in your hideout, plugging the same map endlessly, we want you to explore our world of the map where you're not quite sure what's going to come. Well, most people who played both, not everybody, but most people said, yeah, it's way more fun when I get to run my favorite map in my hideout. Like, I don't care about all these surprises that you have. But the reason why we didn't care is because you didn't have any surprises in the original Endgame. It was like way too flat. But now with these and stuff like this, as they continue to build upon it, now I'm getting more and more on board with random exploring than I was before with cool ideas like this. The affixes were reworked. This was needed because like the affixes were like very strangely allocated on the waypoints or on the waystones where one of them would give you all the negatives and one of them would give you all the positives. So you just like try to make maps where you just get all the positives, and like the difficulty was not tied to the reward, and it just didn't make any sense. So now they are tied together. Now I think you can get more affixes now. And because of that, the scaling of the modifier's difficulty will come down. So the game just hasn't just strictly gotten harder for you. They're going to make the beginning of each league mechanic, getting the first points of each end game mechanic easier. So, for example, getting your first 2 points of breach or getting your first 2 points of ritual will be easier. And now fighting the pinnacle bosses will cost splinters instead of an entire key. And they said the overall result of this is it's going to be easier to fight the lower tier bosses, so you can just get into the end game a little bit smoother. And I believe they said in all of the skill trees, when you would fill out a tree for something like ritual, as you would build the tree, you were forced to build difficulty into the tree. Now the skill tree is just the tree. It's just something that you want, and you choose the difficulty when you plug the splinter. Again, I think that's a much better change. Now they said the Arbiter, again, I believe, I'm listening to them go over this quickly, but I believe they said the Arbiter now requires you to do max level citadels, which is, I don't think anybody should complain about that, because like people were like doing the easiest citadels by far to go fight the Arbiter. Bro, the Arbiter is supposed to be the pinnacle boss. So they're doing a lot of work to smooth out the progression, and you'll see more on this later. But this is the way I should be, I think. It's the pinnacle boss that we have. You shouldn't be able to do shitty citadels and then go fight him. They said leveling was too slow. They said it's going to be easier to hit the mid-90s, but from the way that they phrased that, it seems like it's not going to be easier to hit 100, which is fine. I mean, I think most players consider PoE in PoE 1 like 95 to be the end of your leveling journey usually anyway. And they added many, many new endgame chase items that maybe it's in the patch notes, or we just log in and go look for them and have fun. Crafting. So essences now work like regals. You know exactly what you're going to get. I mean, one of the biggest problems with PoE 2 is crafting. There's no determinism. You can't. It's all just a random slot machine. Well, this is one step to making it not a slot machine. There's more tiers of essences, and perfect essences will be rare and work more like chaos orbs. A lot more crafting choices. Now there's currency tiers of the different orbs, which are more and more powerful and give you better affixes. Again, some level of determinism, because now you're not just getting shitty tiers of affixes, so that factors in. And now there's exceptional items, which can come with higher quality or an extra socket. And yes, you can, if they have an extra socket, you can try to corrupt them for yet another additional socket. This is part of what makes PoE 1 great. You can make some absolutely, completely ridiculous endgame items. And the exceptional item that I believe that they showed was a white item. So whether it's available in this current patch or not, it sounds like they do have a plan for you to just find a godly exceptional base, take your knowledge and take your currency, and with some level of determinism, try to craft something godly. Will that all come into play in this patch? I don't know, probably not. But as they add more and more tools to do so, it seems like it will be a core part of PoE 2 later. They have new omens. They listed a lot of them. I couldn't keep up. It was way too fast. They do very powerful things. Check the patch notes. Hina Chorus locks are introduced. Last patch, I dropped 2 Hina Chorus locks in one drop. It was the best drop that I got. I sold it for almost 200 divine. Hina Chorus locks let you see the future of a craft. So when all this comes to fruition, we're taking an exceptional item and crafting it in 7 or 8 steps to make it godly. You reach step 7 and you're going to brick your item. You might use a Hina Chorus lock to see the future of the currency that you would do, to see if you're going to brick it or not, and then go from there. It might be cheaper to do it with a Hina Chorus lock than to start over. New trade system. Kingsmarch is also going to be in PoE 2. That's like the trading thing and the shipping thing in PoE 1. I didn't see anything about the shipping or the farming or anything like that. It was just Kingsmarch, like the town. I don't know if that means the other things are coming. I didn't hear them say anything about it. Ange, you give her your items, and people can search for them, and they can teleport to your hideout. They auto-teleport to wherever your NPC is. The item is highlighted, and they can buy it from you. It is a race, so just because you click buy and you port, anybody else can click buy, and the first one to click buy wins. It's like Diablo 2 picket on bail runs all over again. You can be AFK. You can be in maps. You can be offline. It doesn't matter. If you give stuff to Ange to sell, then that's it. It's in that tab to sell. They've already thought of a couple of gimmicks that people might do. We'll cover them later. It also has a gold cost. We'll cover it later, why, in the Q&A. Speaking of the Q&A, now we go to the Q&A. One more disclaimer that I need to make, because people have gotten mad at me in the past. So let me make a disclaimer. This is not me verbatim writing Ziggy D's questions. He did a great job, by the way. And it's not me verbatim writing Jonathan and Mark's answers. It's me listening and trying to write 3 hours of Q&A in very simple words with my interpretation of the question and the answer. So this is my interpretation of the Q&A. It's not a direct quote. If you want to hear the direct quotes, you're going to have to go watch it for 3 hours. So, first question. Did you fix everything with the game that you wanted to? No. For example, people will be upset that towers aren't fixed, but they will be fixed soon. For example, they tried to get it in. They said they have some ideas. Druid didn't launch, or maybe more broadly, we didn't get a new class. And they said, if we don't have the balance for it, we can't release it. They thought it would be ready for now, but it wasn't. Remember the top thing that we said? They have a deadline. They're launching on August 29th, so we have something to play. They could have delayed it to get the Druid in or not. I would strongly prefer. They told us months ago, or a month ago at least, that it's coming out on the 29th. Bro, if we get close to the 29th and it's not on the 29th and I got excited for no reason, I'm going to be mad. It's okay. We'll play the Druid later. That's my opinion anyway. Some people are going to be really mad about it. I get it. I want to do 17 damage too, but that's why they didn't launch it. I'm not mad about it. Do you consider this the big endgame patch? No. There's a lot more planned. Specifically, they're lacking mid-game goals. They said you can get into mapping, you can reach the pinnacle bosses or fight like the big bosses in the biomes, but there's a lack of direction and narrative. Currently, you're just walking around randomly. They want to smooth that out and make the pinnacle boss chase better and improve the ability to get your league mechanic points. Is Abyss getting an endgame tree? Currently, their endgame tree is baked into all the new crafting and making the items and the waystones, and you can jump into the Abyss. We don't know what that does, and they give you tons of things to do without making a tree. At the end of the league, they'll evaluate it and see if it's getting a tree. Towers have a negative stigma. Are you just going to remove them? They don't think they're going to completely remove them, but they might remove all of their mechanics and just keep them as cool ways to just have vision forward. But they said one of the main problems that they want to solve with towers is because towers juice the maps around them. So any map not by a tower is automatically bad. So when you're pathing forward, you're thinking, oh, here comes 5 maps that are garbage as I walk over to the tower, and I have to do these bad maps to get to these good maps. And that entire feeling ruins the ARPG mindset of, in their words, like this next map could be the one that drops, the godly item. So I agree. I agree that this is one of the main problems. I would add further to the conversation that I think towers in general, just juicing that one specific area and the way that you do it also is not fun. I mean, a lot of people have been complaining about this. We could ramble about this for hours. But anyway, they said a tower change is coming. It'll be significant. And yes, they are well aware of how much people hate them. So something is coming. What about agency over choosing what maps you run? That's what we were talking about earlier about random exploring versus plugging the same map in your hideout. They like it when you have control over content. And I think my interpretation of what that means is they like it if you can choose like how to buff your maps with the tablets and the towers, or which citadels you go fight, or how you navigate through, or whether you want to do breach or ritual. So the content within the map, but they like the randomness because that allows them to like put secrets in the biomes and puts awesome hidden things throughout the game. Whereas if people do the same map over and over, placing these hidden things doesn't have any value. This said, can you tell us more about Act 4? We designed it so you can go to the islands in any order. They have different vendors and rewards, so speedrunners and potentially even different classes and archetypes may want to do them in a different order. That's interesting. It's definitely something that I will pay attention to. The third trial was supposed to be in Act 4. Why don't we have it? Didn't have time to make it yet. Is it going to be different from the other ones? They said it would be significantly different. They said, are you really going to allow us to do 3 ascendancies quickly, Acts 2, 3, and 4? And it's a good question from Ziggy, because that's not what happens in PoE 1. In PoE 1, you do Lab 1, and then Lab 2, and then like Lab 1, 2, and 3 are spaced out over a pretty decent margin of the campaign. So it feels like these will be much quicker from what I've seen. And they said, yes, they're okay with it. So you're going to potentially have your 3rd ascendancy done by chapter 4 in the campaign, and there's 5 chapters. So that's pretty quick. Any further improvements to the campaign speed other than the patch that you had mid-league last time? And they said the main thing that will help, other than the mega patch, which most people missed that happened mid-league last league, because most people quit at the beginning, was that they gave you sprint. And they said the people playing it feels like it's not a slog anymore. Why did the team change their minds on one support gem? They said some were still opposed to it, but they tried it, and opening up the game they feel is by far the better choice than what they lose. Totally agree. Then Jonathan made the point that people who were opposed to it were afraid that everyone's just going to take all the same supports. But I would counter that. Argument by saying, if you made 100 supports and everybody uses the same 10, then it means that you made 90 underpowered or bad supports. Just go make them not bad. It's like a free Q&A for the devs. I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision. It's like free Q&A. That's the way that I view it. Are you worried there will be too many supports with lineage support? You're adding more supports, all that stuff. They said they think one of the problems is that their recommendations were bad. And yeah, some of the recommendations for their skills didn't make any sense. So people were like listening to grinding gear games, and they were purposely, like, they were being penalized for it. They're making bad choices. So they did a mega pass on all the recommendations, and now it should recommend 3 really good supports for every single skill. And they think that that will help people who would struggle with too many supports being in the game. With the changes to supports, did you change anything on the sockets or finding 6 links? They said they already made a significant change to this last patch, but progressions should be smoother with less randomness up to the 5 link, but the 6 link is supposed to still be like a pinnacle drop. Gem levels are super important, but the mana cost gets insane. Thoughts? The levels are still important. The mana cost will be roughly the same in the campaign, but in the end game and at levels higher than 20, the mana cost will come down significantly. This was a colossal problem with the game. On my Ice Strike Monk guide, I can't tell you how many people messaged me saying, Rax, I made your build guide, but how do you solve mana? And I said, I didn't solve mana. Let me guess. On your staff, you went for +4 skill levels or whatever. And they said, yeah, I did, of course. And I said, well, in my guide, I didn't have that. And they said, yeah, but I thought that would be a good addition. No, that bricks your build, because when you change your Ice Strike from level 20 to level 24, you get almost no increase in damage, and the mana cost becomes, you're just unable to deal with it at all. So it was a massive problem, and I'm glad that they fixed it. How much gold does it cost to buy something with a new trade system? They said it takes about one map's worth of gold to buy 1 rare. Are you guys worried there will be some exploits with the new trade system? People will find ways to troll, but they thought of a few of them. For example, when people go to your hideout, they port directly to the NPC, not to the waypoint. That way you can't hide the NPCs, so people are looking for where to trade. And they also implemented a cooldown on removing an item. So if you sell an item for 5 divine and you see everyone has instantly joined, you can't remove it and then put it up for 10 divine. There's like a cooldown, and they said when people join, it also refreshes the cooldown. So you need to sell with purpose. But they said they'll probably find other exploits that they'll have to fix. Are you worried about bots? They said there's already bots, but that's why they put a gold cost in the transactions to make it harder on the bots. Is the trade site going to come inside of the game? They said they made a prototype for this, and it's close to being released. Are you going to put more things in the game rather than third party? They said, like Awaken PoE trade. Maybe someday it's a good feeling to not have to use third party programs. They don't like third party programs, so they might try to build the stuff into PoE. When someone clicks to buy an item, does it block other people from buying the item? No. It's a race to get there and buy the item. It's like Diablo 2 bail runs. Are you prepared for new players during the free weekend? And did you put tutorials in the game for them? They've been DDoSing themselves to prepare it. There's no new tutorials. They'll add them later. Is there a level where currencies are disproportionate to each other on the exchange? And they said essentially yes. When it takes 1,000 exalts to buy 1 divine, every exalt is 0.1% of a divine, and it feels like you're picking up nothing. It's something they'll look at. Is the number of players playing Lightning Spear a problem? They said yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Lightning Spear is OP. It could be because a lot of the bad supports or the bad choices that you make at the floor of a build are just way too low. So they did nerf Lightning Spear, but they also brought up the floor of builds to hopefully not create this problem again. Have you guys looked at leveling builds to balance them? They said they don't look specifically at leveling builds. They try to balance all the skills in the game across all areas of the game. What made you decide to change armor and apply it to elemental damage? They figured the public would think that the problem is still the mega hits do a lot of damage. That's exactly what I thought when I heard them change. But they said they did the research and the mitigation of armor on the mega hits was actually pretty decent. And what seemed to be killing people was that armor wasn't helping with elemental damage. So I'm willing to believe grinding gear games on this. I'm certainly not arguing that this does make armor better. It does. But it was definitely like well known and well talked about in PoE 1 and PoE 2 for a long time that the problem with armor is it mitigates all the small hits, but all the mega hits still crush you. So they essentially kind of said that maybe, I guess we'll see how it goes. But we'll see how it goes. But it's been talked about a lot for like a long time. So we're going to have to see. Are div cards coming? At some point. What about hot swap between keyboard and mouse? It's not ready yet, but it's coming. Are you going to put mercenaries in PoE 2? They like them as allies in PoE 1. They don't like how the uniques don't change the mercenary survivability. They don't like Dorianis. If you don't know what that is, that's an armor that mercenaries wore in PoE 1. They got banned in the gauntlet from being used because it sets enemies' lightning res to -200, which essentially solves like elemental pen for you. So all lightning builds just murder just by putting this on their mercenary. And they said because the mercenaries exist, now the gameplay has turned into you pretty much insta-die or you insta-live. I mean, I'm not the best PoE 1 player out there, but I feel like the game has been like that for a while. But maybe I'm wrong. Like, I don't know, like how many times have I been slowly chunked down and killed? Like I can't remember too many times. If they implement it in PoE 2 in the future, they will make changes. So that was, let's see, it started at, when did it start? It started at 3 and it went till like a little after 6. So that was 4 hours, as fast as I possibly could. Trying to recall it as fast as I could, or as accurately as I could. For me, in like a 4-month period, while they're also working on PoE 1, I thought the PoE 1 league that they did was great. I played it for 2 straight months. I had a lot of fun. I feel like grinding your game's output is just very, very high. It's just very impressive. I would say this patch is bigger than I thought it would be. Yeah, I wanted to play Druid. They almost had it done. Okay, whatever. But even with a lot of the new skill changes that they made and the changes to the progression in the end game and the new abyssal things to go hunt for and the new crafting stuff, bro, I'm not for a moment thinking that I'm going to be bored anytime soon. I'm feeling like I'm going to be able to blast here. And I already had faith in PoE 2. I always thought it was going to be one of the best games. I always thought grinding gear games was going to get there. I would say this patch definitely has reinforced that. I'm definitely feeling very good about PoE 2. I'm feeling very favorable toward grinding gear games. I mean, I think it's just a big win for them. I don't want to ever get to the point where I think they can do no wrong. I mean, people can do wrong for sure. Like there have been mess ups for sure, but boy, they're quick. Boy, they're quick to fix them. And boy, they really seem to be listening. And their effort seems to be very high. I mean, that's really all you can ask for.